Yo, peace was good. Welcome to the installment of introduction. The artist that I'll be talking about today is Nas, Nasty Nas, Nasir Jones, Nostradamus, Nasty Nas, all that good stuff. Alright. How I got introduced to Nas? Well, I just have to say that Nas is one of my all-time favorite MCs. In case you guys wanted to know, but he is. I guess it's the Queens bias in me because I'm from Queens and stuff like that. But he's that dude though. Even though sometimes he pisses me off, but I'll get into that later on. Why he does that. Um, my introduction to Nas goes back as far as 1994 when I was 7 years old. I remember I was with my mom. We was driving somewhere. I think we was driving to the Green Acres Mall in Long Island, even though some people call that Queens, but I consider that Long Island. It was either 98.7 Kiss FM or Hot 97, because Hot 97 had just became a hip hop station, because Hot 97 wasn't always a hip hop station. So it might have been 98.7. It might have been Kiss FM, but the first song I've heard from him was actually "The World Is Yours," and that was my introduction to Nas. And when I heard that joint, I went crazy. I was like bobbing my head and stuff like that. I really loved that song. And then I remember not hearing that song for years. You know what I mean? Just not thinking of it, because growing up, I've always loved music, but I liked what was out. What's happening to be in the 90s. So if I was born back in like 2005 or 2002, I'll be liking whatever's out from then. So I was blessed enough to be born in the 80s. But anyways, getting back to what I was saying, then I realized that when the first album that I got introduced to Nas was actually the Nas I Am album back in 1999. That was the first Nas album that I actually copped and things like that. Then and I'll get into the rest of the albums and stuff like that. And then after that, the rest was history. All right. And then now I'll get into the history of Nas and how I talk about, I go through some of his albums and stuff like that. So Nas, MC that got started back in the mid '80s, things like that. Just doing the park jams, battling cats and stuff like that. He was discovered by Lost Professor. Lost Professor took him under his wing, and his first appearance on Wax was actually the live at the barbecue off of the Breaking Adams album from Main Source. Lost Professor's old group. That when I was 12, I went to hell for snuffing Jesus. That line just put everybody went crazy over that line. You know what I mean? It's who the hell is saying that? Especially back in 1991. And yes, I know you had Esham and Gangsta Nip and the Ghetto Boys, but I'm just talking about somebody of that stature, that. He was underground, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. But with that, so that was crazy. And then he was actually featured on MC Search's song "Back to the Grill Again." Classic posse cut song right there, pretty dope. That was actually pretty dope right there. And then 1992, I think he dropped his first single, which was "Halftime," which was produced by Lost Professor, which was featured on the Zebrahead soundtrack. Dope movie too, by the way. And then right after that, he dropped the Illmatic album. Illmatic, definitely one of the illest albums of all time. Not just in hip hop, but just in music in general. 10 straight songs, no skippable tracks. You could play that album without skipping a track. You could play that song without skipping a track. And, just from the Genesis intro, when he uses, the Wild Style song, the song from the Wild Style soundtrack, it just sounded so ill. At the time when I first heard it, I didn't know it was from Wild Style. I thought it was just a beat that somebody made. But the way it sounded, it just sounded so dark. The way it sounded, the way they pitched down the sample, it just sounded so ill, man. It just fit. And you just hear him yo, pass the Hennessy, just it was just so ill, man. That's how that shit sounded, man. And then because it really fit that album so well. And then you got songs like New York State of Mind, which is like a New York staple song right there. Like when you hear that song, you really feel New York, especially around that time because New York at that time was really dangerous. Then you had songs like Life's a Bitch with AZ. AZ kind of was AZ's introduction to the world, but that was AZ's song all the way. He stole that song. Nas's verse was cool. It was dope. It's kind of slept on, but AZ's verse on that song, oh my god. Like, I'm surprised he didn't add that to his Do or Die album, but I can see why he didn't do that. But yeah, man, fucking dope, man. I mean, Represent, Memory Lane, One Love. I mean, it's just so dope. I mean, the One Love remix, The World Is Yours. I mean, oh my god, like that album. I will be definitely doing a review on that album, and definitely will be doing a review on that joint right there. Classic album by all means, man. And like I said, not classic as far as like just in hip hop, but of all genres, man. It should be like when people put like classic albums of all time within all genres. Illmatic definitely has to be put in that category. And I know some people, even some of my friends, don't really care for Illmatic, and I can understand why. That was Nasty Nas in the Nasty Nas era. You know what I mean? Because to me, Nasty Nas was Nas from like 91 to like 94. It was Nas in his rawest form. His more gulliest form, in my opinion. And then I think the album, because of that album, he got Lyricist of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, right after the album came out. So I thought that was pretty cool. Then in 1995, he actually was featured on Cool Giraffe's 456 album with the song Fast Life, classic song. You just heard it, the first song, but that was the Salaam Remi remix, just the instrumental. Okay, and then 1996 he had dropped It Was Written. To me, this is where this is the beginning of the Nas Escobar era of Nas. When he was like more established. It's where he got more known international wise. Things like that. He started going more mafioso, but then also where It Was Written, it was like his more crossovers. It was his crossover album, and he got a lot of shit for that album because like I said, it was a crossover. It had like more crossover feel. He was fucking with track masters and things like that. Because I think Nas himself wanted to do another Illmatic, but the powers to be, specifically Steve Stout, wanted him to be more accessible to the world, and it was kind of smart for him to do that. And then that's another dope album I feel like people sleep on, because people are so prone to like Illmatic. They don't really give It Was Written a chance, you know what I mean? But it got some dope joints, man. You got songs like I Gave You Power, where he plays himself as a gun, even though he wasn't the first to do that. Farrah did that off the Extinction Level Agenda album that came out in '94 with Organized Confusion. He was the first to do that, so I just want people to make that clear. Not to throw shots at Nas, but I don't want people to think that Nas was the first to do that. I want people to know that. But anyway, and I know Tupac came with the song Me and My Girlfriend, where he plays the same concept, but again, Farrah and the Organized Confusion did that first. Anyway, you got songs like that. You got songs like The Setup, which is like one of my all-time favorite songs from Nas. One of my all-time favorite Havoc beats. Nas Is Coming. I Gave You Blood. I mean, come on. I mean, If I Rule the World, I wasn't too fond of that song. To this day, I hate that song. I hate to say it like that, but I really hate that song. I just hate it, man. Live Nigga Rap, I mean, come on. I mean, and it's funny too because that song Live Nigga Rap was originally a Mobb Deep song, and that song was actually supposed to be on the Hell on Earth album. But Nas liked that beat so much that he actually bought that song off of Mobb Deep. or Havoc, if you will. So, and that's how that song came about on that album. So that's how Havoc has two placements on that album. You know, things like that. And you got Affirmative Action. I mean, you got songs like that. Suspects, Silent Murder. Oh my God, man! My only gripe with it was written was that Silent Murder wasn't included on on the American version of it. It was written. It was only included in the European version, and that had to be because of I guess sample clearances from the Soul to Soul group from England, the group that did the Back to Reality song. That song, cause you know they're from the UK, so maybe not them themselves, but maybe like the record label wasn't allow it to be on the US version, so which kind of sucks. But I think it was on the cassette version, but not on the CD version. But you know what I'm trying to say with that. And then in 1997, he collabed with AZ, Foxy Brown, and then Dr. Dre and Nature, and came out with the Firm album. That album I was not too fond of. It was just like a different sound from Nas, you know what I mean? I just wasn't too crazy about that album, man. Like, even to this day, I tried listening to that song. I just was not, that album, excuse me, was not too fond of it. I mean, there were a couple decent songs that I did like from it, like, Firm Biz was cool, Phone Tap was cool, but I got tired of that song so much. Like, I've heard that song so many times to the point where I got tired of it. And then got some other decent songs like Desperado, but overall I kind of sweep that under the bridge, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. And then in 1998 he started working on his next album, Nas I Am, the autobiography, which is an autobiography of him, like how he came up and things like that. It was supposed to be a double disc album, but because of sites like Napster that just came out, that was when MP3s started becoming a new thing. You had like I said, you had file sharing sites like Napster is what really fucked it up. It fucked up a lot of albums around that time because even Mobb Deep's Murder Music was supposed to come out in '98, but because of Napster and it got heavily bootlegged, where they had to re-record the album. Same thing with Nas, where Nas had to re-record Nas I Am to make it into a brand new album, and then you have Nas I Am, which we all know from today. That's another album I actually like from him, which I felt was pretty underrated in my opinion. I know a lot of people kind of shit on that album. A lot of people hated that album, even to this day. I actually like that album. It was definitely like a crossover song from Nas. Crossover album. Definitely good. He had songs like Hate Me Now, where with that song, there was rumors of him being part of Bad Boy Records. It was like crazy at that time. It was really crazy. But yeah, songs like New York State of Mind Part 2. My bad, let me change the song. Yeah. Excuse me. Then you got Nas I Am. Like I said, you got the songs like not New York State of Mind, Part 2. Nas is Like, which is one of my all-time favorite Primo and Nas tracks together. I'm saying some of that left. Yeah, still got some time. Yeah, try to wrap this up. Yeah, you got songs like that. Undying Love, where it's just so ill, man. Like I think with that song, Undying Love is when he compares himself to money or some shit like that. Or it's just like the greed of money. So something that has to do with money being like the central theme of the song, which is really dope. Got mad joints, man. KISSING, where he samples the What's a Woman's Worth from R. Kelly. It's just an overall dope album, man. I really fucks with the album. And then that same year, and I can't forget Belly, his acting debut, which was a classic movie right there. How could I forget Belly? Dope soundtrack. I was a little bit disappointed with that soundtrack, but I'll get into that another time. But anyways, then that same year he dropped Nastradamus. But the story with Nastradamus is that the songs that were left off of I Am was supposed to be on Nastradamus, but Nastradamus was like, excuse me, Nas was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just record new material and give the fans that. And when Nostradamus came out, a lot of people hated that album. People hated that album. Even to me, even myself hated that album. But then it wasn't until a couple of years ago I gave it a chance, and it's actually not bad. You know what I mean? Like when I first heard it, back in like 2000 was like when I first heard the album. There was a couple songs I did like from that, like Shootouts, Family, New World, when he talked about the whole Y2K thing going on, because you know everybody was going crazy over that. It has some decent joints right there, but on that album. But the only thing with the album was rushed. You know, the album was, you could tell the album was rushed. It was like he didn't take his time with that album, and that's why a lot of people hated the album. And the song "You Owe Me" with Genuine, I to this day I do not like that song at all. Nostradamus was horrible. I don't know what the fuck Nas was thinking with that song. Again, that wasn't a good song at all. But Nostradamus, I'd say people just give it a chance. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. I know I'm gonna get a lot of shit for that. I know you guys gonna disagree with me on that, and that's cool. I'm all for that. And then in 2000, he had dropped QB's Finest, which was like a compilation album, with Nas, like some of his artists and like some people affiliated with Nas, and then some QB artists like Cormega, Mobb Deep, and they all have songs on that album. Infamous Mob, things like that. Classic album in my opinion. It's known for songs like Uchi Wally, which was pretty big back then. The Bridge 2001, which is pretty much The Bridge is Over, but the 2001 version with all the dope, all the hot, QB artists out at the time. Pretty dope video too. Just listening to that, just talking about that, just gives me like nostalgic feel. It just gives me a nostalgic moment. And then in 2001, he had dropped Stillmatic. Stillmatic, it's pretty much like a comeback album for Nas. To a lot of people, at that time he was beefing with Jay-Z and the whole Rockefeller crew, and he came out with Ether, which was crazy. Cause it's funny because when Ether came out, that song was played 4 times. I remember when Funk Flex played that song 4 times on Hot 97. I remember that song coming out. I remember it was like December 15th, 2001. It was like on a Sunday. No, not a Sunday. It was on a Tuesday. And that, oh my God, that song, it was crazy, man. But the only bad thing about that song was the beat. I didn't really care for the beat. I thought the beat could have been better. And according to Lost Professor, they recorded another version, or they recorded a demo version of that song, but the beat was done by Swiss Beats, and the subject matter was a lot more grimier. And that's by Lost Professor. And I want to hear that version, man. I want to hear that shit, but I'm pretty sure they deleted, they scrapped it, so we're never gonna hear it. And then Nas and Jay-Z, they squashed the beef from years later. And then it's crazy too with him and Lost Professor. That was the last time that they ever collaborated together for a while. Because Lost Professor said in an interview that he actually has albums worth of material with Nas, so they could put out as much as 3 albums with Nas, and I would love to hear that. But moving on with Godson, that's another dope album. Like I said, Stillmatic was cool, could have been a little bit better, but whatchamacallit, he had dropped Godson, another dope album, kind of dark in a sense. Around that time, he lost his mom. Rest in peace to Aunt Jones, things like that. And I think around that time he had dropped he actually met Khalees, and then that's when they started dating and things like that. But that was a dope album. He had If Heaven Was a Mile Away, Dance, Book of Rhymes, Made You Look, Revolutionary Warfare. He had songs like that. That was actually pretty good right there. But then he dropped an album which I did a review on a couple years ago, which to me was the demise of Nas, in my opinion. And that album was Street's Disciple. By that time, he was married to Khalees. That album was just horribly executed, in my opinion. it was a double disc album, way too long in my opinion. I mean, it has some decent joints like Nasser Savage, Street Disciple. Has some okay joints, man, but it's just you could tell like Khalees had an influence in his songs. You could just tell. Just wasn't too crazy about that album, man. I mean, you had joints like Seku's Story, which was pretty cool, but I just was not too fond of that album, man. It's just horrible. If you guys want to see my review on that album, I'll post that down in the description box. But yeah, I just wasn't too fond of that. And then in 2006, he had 2006 he had dropped Hip Hop is Dead, which caused a lot of controversy. Because of that saying Hip Hop is dead, and to this day, a lot of people use that term. Because before that, people wasn't really using Hip Hop is dead, but Nas kind of like pinched a nerve in a lot of people's pinched a nerve to a lot of hip hop heads, and but that album didn't really serve its justice. The album was another whack album in my opinion. It just wasn't that good in my opinion. He had joints like Blunt's Ashes, which was okay. There was a song called Where Y'all At, which uses a Minnie Riperton sample, which I wish was on the fucking album, man. But he didn't put it on the album, and I think if you put that on the album, I think the album would have served a little bit better, but it didn't make the album. So I'll post it down in the description box. And then 2007, he was kind of quiet. He put out a couple of joints here and there. And then no, he wasn't quiet because him and Bill O'Reilly was going at it. You know what I'm saying? And calling Bill O'Reilly a chump and things like that. And then he had dropped the Nigga album. You know what I mean? But it's called the N album. He pussied out. And he called it the N album, but it's really the Nigga album, which was an album I wasn't really too fond of. I didn't really care for that album. It was a horrible album. I don't care what nobody said. The production was part of the problem. But the thing with Nas is that he has dope lyrics. His delivery is dope. I have no problem with Nas with that. It's just his ear for beats is my problem. And those three albums that I mentioned, The Streets Disciple, like Hip Hop is Dead, and the Nigga album are prime examples of that. I wasn't too fond of that. He dropped songs like Project Roach, where he plays himself as a cockroach, which was again another concept that is not new, that Necro did with cockroaches back in '98. Sly Fox was just, kind of throwing shots at Fox News, things like that. Bill O'Reilly specifically. And then I think in 2009, 2010, he had dropped what did he drop? The Distant Relatives with Damian Marley, which I wasn't too fond of either. Just the production wasn't that good. But I do respect the concept of the album. Kind of like going back to Africa, just knowing your African roots and stuff, which was good. But I just wasn't feeling the production on that album. But then fast forward to 2012, he came out with Life Is Good. And that album to me was Nas' comeback album. He had songs like Nasty, Daughters. I did a review on that album. Definitely check that out. I'll post that down in the description box. All the reviews I did for Nas, I'll post in the description box. I gotta do more reviews on him, but I definitely will be doing them. But yeah, man, that's a dope comeback album. Locomotive or Lost Professor. My only gripe with that song is the whole for all my stuck in the 90s niggas, because that's kind of throwing shots at people like me. I kind of felt some type of way about that, Nas. But anyways, and that's pretty much it for his albums. Overall, dope album. Oh, and I forgot Lost Tapes, which is pretty much it's just a compilation album of songs that he did between Nastradamus and I Am. So songs that didn't make those albums, he put it on Lost Tapes. Overall, dope MC. I just wish he has a better ear for beats. Supposedly he was supposed to come out with Lost Tapes 2, which never came out. He was supposed to come out with a collab album with Mobb Deep, that never came out. He was supposed to come out with a collab album with DJ Premier, that never came out. A Nas album, a collab album with Common, It was supposed to be called Nas.com. That never came out. What the fuck, Nas? Like, come on, man. He keeps saying that, you know, he's supposed to drop his last album, which was supposed to be Life is Good, with Def Jam. But he says another album that he's supposed to drop called, I'm just going by what it says by Wikipedia. It says Season of Nasir. But I don't know if that's the actual title. But he's supposed to come out, but he's supposed to come out with this last album with Def Jam, I think this year, and then he'll drop the DJ Premier album, the collab album with DJ Premier. But I'm gonna be real with you, I'm not too fond of it, of the collab album with Primo, because Primo's beats lately has been whack. I hate to say that. I know that's kind of harsh to say, but his beats lately was not that good. It's like it doesn't have that thump. It doesn't have that oomph. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. But Nas, congratulations on you for winning the W. Du Bois Award from Harvard. I think it was from Harvard that you won it from. Congratulations to you, my dude. Keep doing your thing. Would love to hear more music from you, my G. And what I like about you, you take your time with your albums, with the exception of I Am and Nastradamus. But that wasn't your fault. But, you know, keep doing your thing. I love you, Nas. Nas, please put out... I would love for you to put out the original version of I Am, the double disc version as it was supposed to be intended. Nas, if you can do that, if somebody from Columbia Records or somebody from him, for his camp, see this, please convince Nas to put out the original version of I Am. I would love for that to be possible. Just put out all the unreleased joints and put them on CD, man. Just like how you did Lost Tapes. Do a double disc or a 4-disc album or something, or all your unreleased stuff, and just put it out just for the fans. Just like how rock bands do it, you know, things like that. I wish MCs would do that, you know. Just put your unreleased stuff, put it like in a 4-disc album or whatever, 5-disc, whatever disc comes out, how many discs comes in, as all your unreleased stuff. I don't care. Just put them shits out, and I'll be a happy man, alright? That's it, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed that review or the introduction video. Peace.